We've got a radiator we need to install into this Jeep. Stick around and we'll do it together. I've had this Jeep Rubicon here in the shop that we've been working on. You might recognize it. We've done some work on it in the past. The owner now wants to change out the fake radiator with a scale radiator from this wrecked front end. Should be a very straightforward job, and I thought I'd bring you guys in and we could do it together. So let's get started. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get the body off so we can see what we're dealing with. And you can see the radiator is just a sticker behind this aftermarket plate on the front. The radiator from this busted up front end is going to add a ton more realism, and the customer didn't ask for it, but I think we need to include these light buckets also. They'll add the final touch to the front end. First step, let's go ahead and get the radiator light assembly removed. Just have to simply remove 4 screws holding it to the fender skirts. It's a bit dirty, but that's to be expected and should clean up fine. With the radiator out, now let's get the front plate off the customer's Jeep. There should be 6 main screws holding it to the Lexan body, but we've only got 5 present, and they just thread into the Lexan. There's no nuts on the back. There's also a number of bolts holding the light bar that pass through the Lexan body, and half of them are snapped off in the light bar's housing. This is going to be an issue. At the moment, I don't have a tap set small enough to remove those broken bolts. You can see there's 5 broken screws. They're not needed for now, and I think we can take care of this at a later date. For now, I'm just gonna go ahead and get the lights unplugged so I can finish pulling the front end apart. I marked the grill cutout so we know what material will need to be removed when we mount the radiator and light buckets behind the front plate. Since we're now also going to be using the light buckets, I've loosely mounted the front plate so I can mark where cutouts will need to be made. With an X-Acto, I made all the cutouts we need. I want to make sure and leave those 6 mounting holes for the front plate. Let's give it a test fit with the grill assembly and the front plate. Looks like we're going to need a little more trimming around the light buckets, and we're going to need new headlight lenses. People call me a hoarder, but this is why I keep useful things like clear plastic from a label package. I think this will work perfect. I've rough cut the clear plastic and glued it to the back of the front plate. Now I can use an X-Acto to trim it down. Nice, that will work. To mount the front plate, I think I'll use glue and nuts and bolts. After cutting the Lexan up front, it's become a little flimsy, and I think that will help stiffen it up. Glued in place, it looks pretty good. Later, the nuts and bolts will make for a solid installation. Let me go ahead and give the radiator a quick test fit. Obviously, we're going to need to cut the top portion of the radiator to make room for the light bar. I'll use a Sharpie to mark where I'm going to need to cut down to. Also, I think a little silver paint in the light buckets would look really good. I think I'll do that real quick. Let's give it a look. Yep, I like that better. Gives it a more finished look. Now let's go ahead and get to cutting the radiator. I'm using my Dremel with a cutoff wheel to make quick work of it. The Dremel's cuts are very rough, so I'm going to make sure and cut short of my mark. With an X-Acto, I can remove all the chewed up plastic from the Dremel cuts. And with a sanding block, I can work it down to the lines I marked. The cut line looks good and our depth is fine. Oh, good. We don't have enough width. I think I might have made this more complicated by wanting to use these light buckets. The only option is going to be to cut them off and mount all 3 pieces, I think, separately around the light bar. I've gone ahead and mounted the light bar so we can see how things are going to fit, and I've already noticed these mounting locations on each side of the light bar. I think they're going to be an issue. Off camera, I went ahead and ground down the sides of the light buckets, being super careful not to grind all the way through, and I think they should clear those mounting points on the light bar. But now it looks like the fender flare mount bolts are in the way. Back at it with the Dremel. I can't emphasize enough how careful I'm being not to grind a hole through these light buckets. Alright, this looks pretty good. Let's try fitting it again. It seems to fit pretty well and looks good. I think I can mount it using the hole we've already got. Just need a pilot hole for a small bolt. I think this should hold pretty snug and help sandwich the leg stand in between. Not bad. Think I'll touch up around the light buckets with some silver paint and go ahead and glue in the radiator. Nice, that looks much better than the way it came into the shop. Still need to get those broken bolts out of the light bar, but I think we'll handle that in a future RC Basics video, so stay tuned for that one. For now, I think we'll call this a job well done. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Thanks for joining me here in the garage for another shop job, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.